What is up, everybody? Welcome to Monday Night Throwdown here on BostonSportsRadio.net. I'm Ashish Sharma with Brian Roach and Jake Banter, and filling in for John Fernald from CLNSRadio.com. We have Mr. Mike Munger. How you doing, bud?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? I appreciate you guys having me on the show.
Thanks for joining us.
Glad to
And
have you.
let's just go ahead and jump into this, guys, because I know we all are dying to talk about Game 4 of the NBA playoffs between the Celtics and the Knicks. Brian, we'll start with you. Obviously, the Celtics blew a 20-point lead in this one, but still came out on top in overtime. What does this mean for the Celtics? Are they going to pull this one out, or is this thing over in 5?
I mean, I'm hoping it goes longer only because I don't want to just watch the Miami Heat play all off season, you know. I just think that it was great to see them win one. I thought they were going to get swept when when the 20-point lead was blown. So I'm happy to see that Jason Terry stepped up over the final couple minutes to bring the Celtics a victory.
Yeah, I mean it's okay. I mean, I was at Game 3, and it was actually one of the worst Celtic experiences I've ever had in my life. It reminded me of a game I was at in I believe it was '04, and we were playing the Pacers, and it was a similar situation where the Celtics really didn't have a chance, and they kind of just sneak it out, and But yeah, they still. I guess you're happy they won Game 4, so they didn't get swept. But does anyone really think they have a chance to beat the Knicks in 7 games? Who knows? I mean, I would love to see him win another one, but we have to definitely take it game by game. They almost blew it again, too. I mean, they had in Game 1, Game 2, they had big leads, and they almost, they did it in Game 4, and they almost blew it that time, or in Game 4, and hopefully, they can play a full 48 minutes in Game 5.
Well, I'm the ultimate homer, guys. I don't know if my boss over there at CLNS told you guys, but I'm the ultimate homer, so I still see us winning this series just because I refuse to accept the fact that the New York Knicks are this superior juggernaut team. When you look at this series and the way the Knicks team is built, they're a jump shooting team. They are the prototypical jump shooting team, and when they rely on trying to make 10-plus three-pointers a game, that's their best chance of beating you. But looking at the Knicks, they've only scored 90 twice, and they haven't gone over 90 yet. So that's a good thing for us that our defense can still hold them to, under our season average of 96.5 points a game. It's just the offense has been kind of slow. And right now, I think with Jason Terry gaining confidence, with Jeff Green realizing that they don't have anybody in the Knicks that can stop him whatsoever, with Paul Pierce still playing at a high level. I mean, 29 points the other day, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. I mean, Paul Pierce, he can still do it, and he loves playing in the Madison Square Garden. I just don't see this Knicks team, beating us like this. With or without Rondo, I still think that we're a superior team to the Knicks, and I just don't see us laying down for these guys. I think these guys are fraudulent. I'm not impressed by them, and I don't think that they're a legitimate championship contender. So I could see us winning this series and moving on. I'm a homer.
Mike, I mean, just to kind of play off what you're saying, I don't think it's so much the Knicks outplaying the Celtics. I think the Celtics are just beating themselves. You go back and you look at every game so far in this series, the second half has been absolutely horrid for the Celtics. And again, we were talking about how they had a 20-point lead in this one. They scored 30 points in the second half, excluding overtime. And, I guess they're lucky that they have that 20-point lead because this is a game that they should have really won handily. And, when you look at the Knicks, what scares me the most is not the fact that they're going into Madison Square Garden and playing on the road. I mean, look, they're not the '04 Red Sox. I don't think that they're going to be able to come back and win 3 more games after taking the last game at home. But they've got J.R. Smith coming back, the Knicks do. I think Carmelo Anthony will play a lot better at home than he did in Game 4. He took 35 shots and scored 36 points. So to me, I hate to be a pessimist here, guys, but I think this one's over in 5. I think the Knicks are wrapping this one up at MSG.
I disagree. I get what you're saying about J.R. Smith, but again, he is also the kind of knucklehead that's going to come back and try and prove a point, thinking he can beat us on his own, like he wants to be the individual to send us to our off-season graves. So I can actually see him, reverting back to the old J.R. Smith for a few moments during this game, and I just don't see it. I mean, their two best players are jump shooters in Carmelo Anthony and J.R. Smith. And the Celtics defense, when they're allowed to play defense, let me get that out there. You know, when the refs allow them to play defense, which we've seen them not be able to do in this series a lot, but when they're allowed to play defense, the Celtics perimeter defense is still one of the best in the NBA. We have the best defensive guard in the NBA in Avery Bradley, and when he is on J.R. Smith is absolutely useless. So I think that's the adjustment that we're going to have to see here. Doc's going to have to make that decision. Whenever J.R. Smith is on the floor, Avery Bradley's on the floor, he can't score on him unless it's an absolute garbage chuck-up shot. He can only score on somebody who's a lesser defender like Jordan Crawford, or if he gets switched onto Brandon Bass or somebody who can't move their feet. I say keep Avery Bradley on J.R. Smith, put Jeff Green on Carmelo Anthony, save Paul Pierce, let him play someone like Prigioni or Felton or Shumpert, and then, you know, stick the dogs on him, and I think that'll be better for us.
Yeah, I mean, I would. Here's the thing: is that I just don't know if we have enough players, even off the bench. I mean, that I don't think that we have the depth on the bench because of all the injuries. It's not just Rondo; it's Barbosa who played a role. It's Sullinger that played a role. It's these other players that are being asked to play 30 minutes a game. You know, I mean, it's putting the Celtics and specifically Garnett and specifically Pierce, where Pierce is, you know, expected to play 38 minutes and Garnett's supposed to play 35. And I think at this point of their career in the first round of the playoffs, that's too much, especially if you're going to expect to make a championship run. But it's all they can do right now. They have to play. I mean, they have to play them that much, you know?
Yeah, I mean, luckily they have a couple days off between games, so that should help them.
Yeah.
At least rest their weary legs. I mean, or maybe they're made to play in the playoffs, you know? Like, maybe they are made to be built, like, to play, like, 40, 50 minutes in an overtime game. So
wouldn't it be nice
we'll see how they react in Game 5.
Wouldn't it be nice to have Rajon Rondo right now? I mean, give me a break. If we had Rajon Rondo, I don't think that it would be – and I'm not the biggest Rondo guy. It's right now where you realize the most how much you miss him, I think, than anything. Somebody to handle the ball and own the game.
Especially on a guard-heavy team such as New York.
Oh, he would be killing Felton.
Well, I agree. Having Rondo would be huge, but I think that even without Rondo, if we had Sullinger, I still think that we would be able to beat this team because he's the best rebounder that we have. They're not going to get as many offensive rebounds against us like they have in the last few games, and we're probably going to get more offensive rebounds than we would be getting. I think that even if we had Sullinger, we're still a better team than the Knicks, and I truly believe that talent-wise we're a better overall team than the Knicks right now. It's just we've had a couple guys underperform. Offensively, we hit a few slumps. You know, it always seems like one quarter in every game in this series we hit an offensive slump where we couldn't throw the ball in the ocean from the beach. So I just think that now that these guys have smelled that win and some of these guys are gaining a lot more confidence, I honestly predict that you'll see Jason Terry, Jeff Green, and Paul Pierce all go off again, especially on the biggest stage, because two of those guys have championship experience. Jeff Green's probably the most athletically gifted player on both teams. I just don't see us going out like that.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting that you bring up Jason Terry, Mike. Obviously, he is a guy that I think earned his paycheck in the overtime of last game. You know, he's a guy that we've been getting on continuously throughout this. I mean, Jake, it was his. You know what? I said this in the production meeting before the show. No, but I think he was the difference, and it was his J.D. Drew 07 ALCS moment. Jason
like the
Terry.
comparison.
Yeah, it pretty much was. I mean, come on. Like, without him, he made some pretty clutch plays in the overtime, and without him, obviously, I don't think they would have escaped that overtime. And again, I'm just going to go back to it. They shouldn't have been in overtime after that 20-point lead, but that's a separate discussion altogether. I mean, do you guys think that Jason Terry can now kind of build off that? And because he's a guy that was never really comfortable with his role. Some days he was a starter early in the season, some days he was coming off the bench, and he never really settled into a groove with this team. Now, do you think he can start to maybe build off that Game 4 performance? And if they do advance to a Game 6 after Game 5, which is tomorrow night, if they do you think that's something that he can build off and continue to get better for this team?
Absolutely.
I think so. I mean, he basically like he threw up the least amount of 3-pointers since like 2004. It's been a while since he's had that few 3-pointers. So I think that was a main factor of how like awful he was, to put it bluntly. I think this was a great performance by him. 9 straight points, 1 3-pointer, some free throws. It was a job for Jason Terry.
Well, the guy that I've always compared Jason Terry to, just for has been Rasheed Wallace, because you look at when Rasheed was here that one season, he was the most frustrating player for the majority of fans throughout the regular season because he just shot threes. He didn't really look like he was trying. But then come playoff time, you could argue and say that he was, easily one of our most important players because his veteran leadership, his playoff know-how, his championship experience, it helped get us to the finals in what should have been our second championship. I mean, Rasheed Wallace in Game 7 played his ass off against the Lakers in Game 7, and he left everything he had on the court. That's the kind of thing I was expecting out of Jason Terry this year, where I cut him some slack for the regular season because he wasn't brought here to win us 50 games. He was brought here to win us 16 games, or contribute to us winning 16 games, and that's the kind of effect I can see him having. And you could see that a guy like Jason Terry, when he has his confidence and when he has that swag that NBA players talk about, he's definitely a much different player. So I could see Jason Terry just outplaying everything he's done all year, coming back again in game 5 and just dominating off the bench.
Sure. I mean, let's. It might be a little bit too little too late for me at this point, though. I mean, they're down 3 games in the first round of the playoffs. Jason Terry, to me, has been a complete bust from pretty much start to finish. He hasn't been the player. He's lost a step. He hasn't shot the same. It seems like a Dominique Wilkins type situation, if you guys remember when we brought him in. It doesn't seem like we were the team that just took the last ticking on him, and we kind of got burnt with it. And it's okay. Personally, to me, I hate it, and I don't think the Celtics have a chance anymore. And I hope that I'm wrong, obviously, as a fan. But I'm already looking to next season, and I think that recruiting Kevin Garnett to come back will be the biggest thing that Danny has to do next year, is try to recruit Garnett to come back and play another year with Rondo. I think that's huge.
Jake, I just want to kind of move on to the next thing, which is, what does this team do after this year? Regardless of whether they advanced or not, I don't think any of us have them going to the finals winning the championship. I have them losing in Game 5 of this series. But, Brian, we'll start with you. After this series, where does Danny go from here? Does he blow it up? Does he rebuild? Does he bring KG and Paul Pierce back for another go? Remember, they're still under contract. What happens from here?
I think just keep it how it is, because with healthy bodies, they'll probably be back in playoff contention, be a top 4 seed, maybe. Depends on how everything goes with Rondo and Solinger and Jeff Green and how the minutes go. I think Doc Rivers needs to play some people more, especially the Jeff Greens and the Solingers of the world. Leave Jordan Crawford leave Crawford on the bench and let it roll from there.
Well, as far as next year goes, I mean, I think ideally it'd be better if we brought Kevin Garnett back and then let Paul Pierce come back for the last year of his contract, because I don't want to see either one of them play for anybody else. That's a given for me. Neither one of them should be forced to play for anybody else. You don't trade those guys. You give them limited roles. You do what the Spurs do with their veterans. You have them play, X amount of minutes regardless of the situation. You give them games off, with injuries. That way they don't get fined for it by, the Air Stern up there. And, what you do is you bring in good complementary guys that will fill roles for this team. Looking at a couple of the draft prospects here, one website has us taking a shooting guard out of Kentucky, Archie Goodwin. The other one has us taking a French center, Rudy Gobert. I think that what we need size. We need bangers. We need guys that aren't going to be afraid to mix it up a little bit. I wouldn't mind bringing former friend Jason Collins back. If I had my pick, if I got to be Danny Ainge for a day, I'd like to see them pick Jeff Withey, the center from Kansas, I think he'd be a perfect fit alongside Kevin Garnett as a legitimate 7-footer who can bang, is athletic, and he's not offensively deficient around the basket. Or the guy that we just got to see in the national championship game, Georgie Deng. He's very athletic. He's long. He could block shots. You put people like that around Kevin Garnett, it's going to take a lot of pressure off of him so that he doesn't have to play 30-plus minutes a game, and then we'll be good to go, and you get one more run at it with, essentially the core.
No, I certainly hope so, Mike. I mean, this is, again, like you said, it would be painful to see Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett suit up for any team that's not the Celtics, especially after what these guys have been through together over the last 6 years. Obviously, there are other teams that are going to be facing the same thing. As you mentioned, the Spurs. And onto the Lakers, they're another team that, they have aging superstars. Kobe Bryant, Pau Gasol, Meta World Pieces and all that young. Dwight might be leaving. I mean, I think personally he just played in his last game for the Lakers by getting ejected, and I think now he's going to be taking his talents to South Beach. I don't know if that's going to happen, but he will not be playing with the Lakers next year. So, you have a lot of teams that are sort of facing this dilemma now where, I read somewhere, I forget who said it, but someone said that the Lakers should amnesty Kobe Bryant. And, if this was 2 months ago, I would have said, what are you talking about? But you look at, A, his age, B, his mileage, and C, the fact that he's going to be out until January. I mean, let's talk about the Lakers. What do they do?
I might actually amnesty him only because of how much money he's owed. And it would help the Lakers rebuild a little bit, Pau Gasol can't handle pressure. Dwight Howard probably won't be back. Who are they going to start? Like, who's going to be, on the starting, the starting five? No one knows what that's going to look like. It's going to be like Meta World Peace and a bunch of, hoodlums, basically. So, I don't know. I say I say just cut Kobe Bryant loose.
Yeah, that's absolutely never going to happen. Kobe Bryant will definitely play with the Lakers for the rest of his career. If you know anything about the branding, and it's the type of thing like what Mike said, or Mike said about the Celtics and letting Pierce go or letting Garnett go. If Garnett went over to the Clippers, I mean, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but it's also a type of situation where it's bigger than just the basketball team. And I think, you made a great reference of the Spurs. The Spurs handle it as well as you can with Tim Duncan, who is the same age, it was basically the same age as KG. And is anyone talking about Tim Duncan retiring next year? I don't think so. I mean, I think KG, if he can come back in a limited role, start him, play him somewhere in the range of 25 to 30 minutes a game, you draft another young big that's ready to play, I think is really important. They need to have a big that's ready to play now. But I think Sullinger, in the way that the NBA plays now, I think you could run Sullinger at the center at times and Jeff Green in that second unit, and that's how you do it.
Oh, I agree. I mean, Sullinger's definitely a capable NBA-ready guy, and even though this is going to sound somewhat ridiculous, I'm not going to give up hope on Fab Melo because I think that even though he's still limited in raw, he's fundamentally sound and he's got very good footwork, and he seems like the kind of guy where if he's just given 10 to 15 minutes a game in the NBA, he'll be able to come in and fill a role and be like a 6 to 7 rebound a night guy. I mean, but as far as the Lakers go, good. I am the happiest person in the world that the Lakers are absolutely struggling because when you look at them, they're so strapped salary cap wise. It would probably save them close to $80 million if they amnestied Kobe Bryant. But the PR nightmare would probably make the younger bus retire or resign right away. So that's not going to happen. They could amnesty Pau Gasol, but then that basically takes away the most skilled big man they have. Dwight Howard, LA can pay him the most with the max deal, but what's he going to stay there for? LA has done such a horrible job at developing young talent that when Kobe Bryant retires, unless they can somehow get in LeBron or Durant or somebody of that status, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. They don't have any young talent on that team to move forward with to keep Dwight Howard around or to build around themselves. You look at us, we have Rondo, Jeff Green, Sullinger, and Avery Bradley. That's 4 very talented young basketball players to start the next generation of the Celtics with. Who does LA have? Andrew Gudalak? I mean, Darius. I mean, they don't have anybody. They traded away Bynum to get Howard. Howard he's not the kind of guy that you're going to build a championship contender around. I'm sorry. He's only rated as the best center in the NBA because there's such a lack of good centers in the NBA. Quite frankly, I think he's one of the more overrated players I've ever seen, and he's the kind of guy who's going to have to go play with James Harden down in Houston to be that second-tier superstar if he wants to have any kind of success as a champion.
Right. No, I mean, Mike, I don't know if – I think it might be a little strong to call him overrated, but he certainly doesn't have that championship mentality that you see, that stone-cold killer that Kobe Bryant is or that Paul Pierce is, the guys that you know when it comes down to playoff time can lock in. I mean, he just seems like a guy that's goofy and is more interested in having fun. And, you know, like, and that's something that he's truly been criticized for, so I really don't see him as a guy that can be the number one guy to build a team around, just as you said. And, you know, getting back to the Celtics, you did mention they've got a wealth of young talent. They've got Rondo, they've got Sullinger and Bradley and guys. The future is bright for Boston. And the Lakers are sort of in trouble because you look at some of the guys that they have, as we mentioned, Kobe Bryant, Pau Gasol, Metta World Peace. They're getting old, and they're going to be in trouble. And I think that in the Western Conference, it's now going to be dominated more by, you know, the Clippers and OKC. I think they're going to be the Spurs of you know, what we saw in the early 2000s to the mid-2000s. It's going to be OKC now going forward.
Danny Ainge did the impossible task of trying to rebuild while still being a contender. And for anybody that's going to criticize him for how this season could potentially end, let's not forget that we had a lot of injuries this year, which played into why we're struggling down the stretch. But Danny Ainge kept a lot of good young talent. He signed Rondo to a reasonable contract. The contract that he gave Jeff Green that he was getting crucified for earlier this year looks like a steal right now. Mm-hmm. And we have the best defensive guard in the NBA, and we have a guy that can rebound he's going to be in his second year. So Danny Ainge stockpiled young talent around his veterans to try and win a championship, but also look forward to the future. And that's almost impossible in a league with a salary cap to do that. So I give him a lot of credit, and I agree. I think the future is very bright for the Boston Celtics.
So, guys, before we move on to baseball, which is what we're going to be talking about next, I do want to touch on one thing that happened today. Jason Collins, former Celtic, we traded away to the Wizards along with Leandro Barbosa, came out today in a piece. I believe it's the May 6th edition of Sports Illustrated. He came out as the first male athlete in professional sports, or at least in North America, to come out as openly gay. And I just wanted to get your opinion, guys. First of all, good. This is, I think, you know, you're seeing a lot more people come out and be more confident and comfortable in such a homophobic world. And I think this is something that you're now going to start to see going forward. We've talked about in the NFL, there are 3 or 4 guys that are going to come out as openly gay later in this year. I want to get your opinion, guys, on how this is going to affect the landscape, people who are struggling with.
People should be accepting of whatever your sexual preference is, and basically that they should be accepting of the people who come out and say that they're homosexuals.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that sports are just any other. It's like the climate of the world is changing with that, and I think the openness and you know the kind of acceptance of homosexuals as people and citizens and friends and coworkers and everything. I mean, it's not as people have made a big deal, and I'm happy for people that get to actually just be who they are, and it's not, they don't have to hide, and it's such a scary thought to think if you had to live your life like that. It terrifies me to think that you would have to hide everything and make it so. It's just sad that we've lived in a culture this long that hasn't been as accepting, that it's taken till 2013 for us to have a player feel comfortable enough to do this, because right by now it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, does it?
Well, I agree. I mean, this isn't the 1960s, 70s, or 80s where that kind of thing was a little more taboo. As we've, you know, as I've gotten older, I mean, I've seen it so that homosexuality is a lot more socially acceptable. People can come out and feel comfortable about it. Now, I get it that sports are stereotypically where you see like a lot of, you know, the macho image and, you know, men have to be men, but being gay doesn't make you any less of a man if you're, especially if you're a professional athlete. I mean, this guy, he's a Stanford graduate. He's personal friends with, former President Bill Clinton's family. The guy's an NBA player. He was a lottery pick. That's a pretty good, that's a good description of a man to me. So, the way I look at it, I don't care if, what a guy does behind closed doors. If he's, on my team and he's helping me win, I'm going to support him. I'm going to have his back. There's going to be ignorance out there no matter what. That's unfortunate. You can't get everybody to think, openly about the subjects, but, that's their problem, not mine. And Jason Collins, good for him. I'll root for him if he ever comes back to the Garden and wears Celtics green and white. If not, I'll root against him. But it has nothing to do with, him being gay. It just has, it doesn't bother me one bit. It's,
I think Doc made a good point too. Is that it would his teammates will probably be the first ones to come around and support him. I think if you know what kind of person he is, like you were saying, Mike, where he's just, sounds like anybody, that seems like a pretty good life to me. Being, or the things that he's done, pretty accomplished, and what he does behind closed doors, I guess doesn't really have to do with any of that. So. The culture's changing. I think it's good for everybody who doesn't have to hide anymore, for sure.
Yeah, and I think the outpouring of support that I've seen from other professional athletes, I think Kobe tweeted out earlier, courage, support. I mean, good for him. That was a really courageous thing to do for Jason Collins, because unfortunately, for every 5 people that says, good for you, sticking to who you are, there are going to be those ignorant people that are going to say things, when he steps on the floor with whatever, he's a free agent right now, but with whatever team he goes to next. This is a very courageous thing to do for Jason Collins, and in a way risky, because, you don't know how other teams are going to react. Luckily, a lot of general managers have said, this is not going to affect anything. We're going to look at Jason Collins as the basketball player and as the man, and his sexual preference should have nothing to do with how we affect, or rather how we make our decisions with personnel. So I think it was a very, cool thing to see that he is taking that next step. And I hesitate to compare this to Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier, but this, in a sense, is breaking a barrier of sorts, because this is something, as Mike mentioned, 20 to 30 years ago was taboo, especially in sports. So good for him.
I agree.
Let's now move on to some baseball talks. Obviously, it's been really depressing watching the Celtics, but the Sox have been on another planet lately. They are the hottest team in baseball at 18-7. Brian, what are your thoughts on this team? Can this continue, man?
I believe so. They have a couple easy matchups against the Twins in the coming weeks. They go to Toronto in the Rogers Center, and they'll launch home run after home run in that ballpark. But basically, I think they'll have a good May. Probably not as good, like 18-7, but probably above 500, I would say. I think their toughest matchup is against Texas this coming weekend. We'll see how they do against a team that has good pitching with like Yu Darvish and whatnot, and Derek Holland and stuff like that. But they also have a really good lineup, and we'll see how our bottom of the rotation, John Lester, look against their lineup.
Yeah, I mean, it's still early. It's obviously great the way the Sox have started. I don't think anybody has any complaints except, maybe a thing here, or one thing or another. But, Napoli's been a really great acquisition. Buchholz has been pitching lights out. Some of the highlights, David Ortiz has come into, making him or having him take those 2 weeks off or whatever, 3 weeks off at the beginning of the season. It seems like it was maybe the best decision that they ever made, because he's come in absolutely on fire, and then maybe it's what he's needed to get started. But also like we've said all along, with the pitching arms that the Red Sox have, they're going to be right there. They have the depth in the rotation, and as long as they can stay considerably healthy, they're going to be right there for a playoff spot. Despite what anyone nationally says, they're going to be right there.
Well, the funny thing was, when you look at the standings in the AL East, they're probably flip-flops from what everybody thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year, with Boston up top and Toronto down low. So, I think that a lot of the off-season expectations and projections are kind of smacking people in the face right now, because, Dustin Pedroia is hitting over, 330, Daniel Navas hitting 310. I mean, Shane Victorino's, hitting the ball okay. David Ortiz, over 500 right now. He's playing well. Jacoby Ellsbury, staying healthy right now, which is important. I mean, if this team can stay healthy, they're going to prove a lot of people wrong, and you almost won't be shocked seeing these guys win a division. I mean, they got great pitching, great hitting, and right now things are going well. As long as these guys can stay healthy and don't have any serious debilitating injuries, I don't see why they're not going to keep it up.
Right, and we're talking a lot about the position players and their contributions. I think it starts obviously with the starting pitching. You look at what John Lester's been able to do. Clay Buchholz, Ryan Dempster hasn't been all that bad. John Lackey in his second start came back and was strong. Felix Braun's pretty solid, and he got up to a little bit of a rough start in the first inning, but he bounced back very well. The starting pitching has been what has been carrying this team. Obviously, they've been getting it done offensively, but I'm looking at Clay Buchholz's numbers right now. He's 5-0, guys, with a 1.19 ERA, 39 strikeouts. Again, it's only April. We're on, like 4 weeks into baseball, but right now he just seems like the best pitcher in baseball at this moment right now, and I just hope it can continue.
Yeah, his last start, he didn't look that good. He wasn't locating his fastball that well. His cutter was a little off, like he wasn't able to locate it for strikes. But he still was able to only allow 2 runs to Houston. Yeah, and Houston's not that good offensively. They swing and miss a lot. But Buchholz has looked really good. He'll get the start against Toronto on Wednesday. So we'll see how he does in Rogers Center against a team like Toronto.
Definitely be nice to see him get up or face a different lineup. Toronto has a pretty good lineup, even with the injuries that they've had. Definitely better than Houston. Although Clay Buchholz has always had Cy Young type stuff. I mean, even since he threw the no hitter, I believe when he was 21 years old at Fenway, one of his first couple of starts, and he just has nasty stuff. And that's the only thing that I worry about with Buchholz is his injury. He's injury prone. He's a kind of a skinny guy. He's younger. You just hope that he worked on, his off-season conditioning has been in question at times. You got to just hope that he can stay healthy this year, because the way he started so far, he's definitely right there. I mean, we're in April and we're 25 games in and we're already talking about the Cy Young, but that's what we do here, I guess. And Buchholz is right there. I mean, should be right there.
Well, like you said, you look at him physically, he's 6'3", but only 190 pounds. He's very skinny, very lanky, like Tim Lincecum-esque kind of build. And you wonder if his body's going to hold up. Through 5 games right now, 37 and 2/3 innings pitched. I mean, that's, just over 7 innings per start. Is he going to be able to do that all season long? Are they going to have to pull a Strasburg with him and reel him in a little bit and not let him throw at his arm, over the length of, the season? Now, the season 162 games, he's not going to pitch that many, but how many starts are you going to allow this guy to have? Are you going to give him an extra day of rest if it looks like his arm's becoming too tired? I mean, we don't want to have the Daisuke thing happens where he grew up throwing, 200 pitches in a game in high school and then going out and pitching, the next day, destroying his arm because it's conditioning. What are you going to do with this guy moving forward? I mean, he does have the potential to be the Cy Young winner. He does have the potential to be one of the top pitchers in baseball, but he has to stay healthy. He just doesn't have that big frame where if something happens, he can power through it. And if he goes down, then I think you're definitely going to see the Red Sox take a big step backwards.
No, definitely. I think, was it you, Brian, that said a week or two ago that Clay Buchholz has never broken the 30-game mark in terms of starts? So, I think, again, health has been an issue with Clay Buchholz. Staying off the DL has been an issue, and that's something that we'll have to keep an eye on. In terms of just his confidence out on the mound, I think he's never really lacked confidence. One thing that John Farrell worked on with Clay Buchholz this spring was speeding him up between pitches. He was just taking too long. He was standing out there during his size sessions with a stopwatch saying, okay, you know what, fire, go. And that's something that's truly helped him keep up the pace and control the tempo as the pitcher. You don't want the batter to get too comfortable in there. And I think so far it's really paid dividends. And again, it's still very early. I hesitate to get too excited about what I see in 1 month of baseball because I think all of us have been watching baseball long enough in our lives to know that things can change like that. I mean, just go back to 2011. Mid-July, we were saying best team ever, World Series, baby. What happened in September? Everything fell apart, including Daniel Bard, who was absolutely, I think everyone not named Jacoby Ellsbury in September was absolutely horrible. So, let's be cautiously optimistic about Buchholz and Lester, but I think they are hopefully going to continue this for the rest of the season. And getting back to the position players that we were talking about earlier who have really been coming into their own, Pedroia, Ellsbury, I want to talk about David Ortiz. After a couple of slow starts in 2009 and 2010, where he really didn't hit his first home run until May, all of a sudden now, what is he hitting? 516 with 2 home runs, 11 RBI. His OBP is 529. What's going on with David Ortiz? How is he all of a sudden now dipping into the fountain of youth and emerging like the 2006 David Ortiz?
Well, John Farrell was talking about, he was saying that he's never seen someone so on target like this before in such a short amount of time, and basically like coming off an injury like Ortiz had. So it's good to see that he can come back 2 weeks off of the regular season and like 6 months off of the regular season and see him perform like David Ortiz that we want to see. Like, it's not like he's not striking out too much. He's hitting the ball the opposite fields. He might start laying down bunts on the shift. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, giving him everyone was complaining that he wasn't ready for spring training, but it doesn't seem to have held him back. Also, signing for the 2-year deal doesn't look too bad as long as he can kind of keep up this pace. Who knows? I mean, maybe he'll be around for another year after that. I mean, the way he's playing right now, I mean, being a DH as well is not. It's much less demanding on the body. So as long as he can swing the bat and then run the bases halfway decent, I think he. I mean, he's starting well, and he's such a key part to this lineup. With him, being protected by Napoli too, he gets on base a lot. He doesn't strike out a lot. He walks a lot. He hits the ball to the opposite field. He keeps the ball in play. And when you have, Pedroia, Victorino, and Ellsbury in front of him, you have 3 guys that can move on the bases as well. So it gives Ortiz and Napoli tons of opportunities to get RBIs. And I think it started off so well, and it's Ortiz has come back and stepped right into it.
Well, I think the fact that they have a pretty good locker room atmosphere, they've gone away from the ridiculousness that's happened these past couple of years, is helping out. It seems like, with John Farrell back there now, there's a certain level of respect that David Ortiz has, for the management and for, the coaching staff and everything, that they allowed him to do what it was necessary without criticizing him on whether or not he was seriously injured or not. I mean, these last 2 years for the Red Sox have been an absolute joke. It's been a farce. So I think that having the good atmosphere around the locker room and the clubhouse is helping. There's no pressure on him right now, and I think that him taking the 2 weeks off, like you said, it has been very key. Now, I hate to play devil's advocate here, fellas, but let's be real. He did have a major Achilles injury. That's something where once it gets injured, the chances of it re-injuring come up again. So, there is a possibility there that it could just take one misstep or one bad swing and he could re-injure himself. So, let's hope that that doesn't happen. But, remember, he is a lot older now, and the chances of him staying healthy for a full season are decreased exponentially with everything that he's gone through.
Right, no, that's an excellent point. And I think one thing that Jake mentioned that is so true is with Mike Napoli here to protect David Ortiz in the lineup, he doesn't feel that pressure to be the guy that has to get it done continuously. I mean, Mike Napoli is leading the league in RBI, I believe. So if he can keep it up,
second.
David Ortiz. Oh, he's second. I'm sorry. Okay, but he's really, I think once he got off to a slow start, but once he found his comfort level with this team, he's been on an absolute tear, and I think that's helping David Ortiz with the rest of this offense that's kind of going. David Ortiz doesn't have to be the key cog in the lineup anymore, and I think that's certainly helped him a lot. And I think mentally, you go back to all the drama of last year, and then Bobby Valentine, I think, made some comments about David Ortiz kind of sitting out last season to protect his contract status and things like that. I'm just glad that all of that now is just out. You got all those cancerous personalities and Bobby Valentine and Josh Beckett and Adrian Gonzalez out, and you, as you mentioned, Mike, have now a clubhouse that is very likable, a team that is very likable, and I think that's what's translating most into wins here.
it just seems like you said, this is a team that the fans want to root for, whereas the last couple of years they were more or less fed up and frustrated with what they were seeing because the whole chicken and beer fiasco, people looking like they're not giving effort. They got out of the Manny situation. Bobby Valentine, he was a high-profile manager, but at the same time, he doesn't have the personality to fit in Boston as much as he did in New York, I guess. I think there's a slight difference for something like that. So I think that you're right, and it just seems like it's a better situation all around, top to bottom.
Yeah, and I think Ortiz too. You're learning Ortiz isn't part of the problem, I guess, as well. And I mean, it's early. It's real early. It's 25 games into the season. Let's not start putting up any banners anymore, or worrying about playoff tickets just yet. I mean, it's really early, and you know what helps the culture in the clubhouse? One thing helps the culture in the clubhouse, and that's winning, and that's what they're doing. So as long as they're winning, everything's going to be fine. But if they started off slow, you may start hearing the creaks from different people just saying different things. But as long as they can win baseball games, I think that culture will be fine.
Right, and speaking of slow starters, I want to throw this out there for Brian. Will Middlebrooks got off to a bit of a slow start. Jake reaching for the list there. Will Middlebrooks got off to a little bit of a slow start, but I think he's starting to come out of it. I mean, he not yesterday, but I think 2 games ago he hit a home run. He's looked a lot more confident at the plate. He's been driving the ball. He's been getting on base. He's been a little bit more patient at the plate. I think this is the guy that Brian's been going gaga for over the last couple of weeks. This is the Will Middlebrooks that we wanted to see, not the guy that we saw 2-3 weeks ago, right?
Yes, after that 3-homer game, I guess he put a lot of pressure on himself. He was releasing his shoulder a little early, so he was still driving the ball, but he was also rolling over it a lot. So that's why he went into that 4 for 40 something slump or whatever it was. But he still is on pace for 36 home runs. That's all I have to say. He has 6 home runs this month. Okay. And that's all you need to.
Can I just say one thing? 36. What a weird number. Can you make it at least 35? I mean, 36.
No, just 36. 6 home runs for 6 months.
Brian, relax. Just to fill you in, Mike, Brian made the bold claim that Will Middlebrooks is going to hit 36 home runs this year, and I won't let him drop it, which is great. But, Brian, you know what has also helped Will Middlebrooks get out of this slump, if anything? Where's he batting in the lineup right now? Number 8 in the hole. That's where he's got to fight to get his spot back.
Obviously.
He's 24 years old. Let's take a deep breath. Let's relax. Let's have reasonable expectations for the kid. He's going to be the third baseman for the next 3-4 years, no question about it. Whether he, let's before we start calling him Wade Boggs or Frank Robinson or something that he's going to hit 30-something home runs. Let's hope that he hits. Let's have reasonable expectations for the kid.
Well, what about Bryce Harper? They're giving unreasonable expectations for him.
Yeah, but that's you were talking about the A-Rod thing before. It just doesn't. It's Bryce Harper and Mike Trout might be the best rookies to come in baseball almost ever. Period.
Mike Trout's not doing that good.
Yeah, but I mean, the year he had last year, no one would argue. He almost won the MVP. He almost beat a guy that won the Triple Crown for the MVP. I mean, that's ridiculous. As a rookie,
Middlebrooks could have been in contention if he was healthy for Rookie of the Year. If Mike Trout didn't have the year he'd had, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right. So don't compare him to somebody who's extra out of this world. It's not fair. Let's see what he is.
I'm telling you, Mike, this is better than reality TV. Watching these two guys go over literally for 1 hour. If you just throw Will Middlebrooks' name into the ring and just let these two go at it, they will.
Brian has a shrine. He has a shrine that he lights candles to every night.
He worships Will Middlebrooks.
He prays for home runs.
Well, I mean, okay. I also want to talk about another guy at the top of the order, unlike Will Middlebrooks, Jacoby Ellsbury. Something that we've been touching on a lot is this Jacoby Ellsbury's last year in Boston? Obviously, it's a contract year. We've been going back and forth on whether or not they extend him. Again, he's a Scott Boras client, so he's hitting the open market. if this team is in contention at the deadline, what do you do with Jacoby Ellsbury? Personally, I say you keep him and you let him walk at the end of the season because I think he's too valuable to lose at the deadline. I would rather keep him for a World Series run than trade him and get some, pitching depth or something like that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because I don't think Jackie Bradley Jr. is ready just yet. Seeing how he hit 100, and I don't think he even. I think he only had like one stolen base, maybe not even that. He was up with us, and I just think that Jacoby Ellsbury, when healthy, right now I don't think he has as much power as he did back in 2011, but I think he has the stolen bases for free. He got caught once in the Houston series. I don't think he had a good enough lead, a good enough jump on that one. He was 10 for 10 before that, so I still think that he'll help out this lineup until the very end.
Well, again, he's another one of those guys where health is the key because, it always seems to be, except for that one MVP caliber season, there always seems to be something that happens to him where he gets hurt and it stunts his growth. I think if he stays healthy, he's too valuable to trade. He's one of the best outfielders in baseball when he's healthy. He can hit the stuffing off the out of the ball once he gets into his rhythm. He's highly athletic. He's an excellent base stealer, like you said. It's just one of those things where he can't let the pressure of playing for Boston get to him. We've seen that happen with a lot of talented guys where they're excellent players, but playing baseball in Boston for the Red Sox is a lot different than playing basically anywhere else outside of New York, Chicago, and L.A., where as long as he doesn't let the contract situation affect him, as long as he focuses on actually playing baseball and focus on doing what his job is, let's help this team get wins, I think he'll be all right. But you can't trade him. He's one of your top players. It just wouldn't make sense. The only thing that you could do if you were going to consider trading him is if you started to fall off a little bit, you fell back to third in the division, and it seems like it just wasn't going in the right direction. Then maybe I could see you trading him for some pitching prospects to try and strengthen your starting rotation or your bullpen. Or if he gets hurt again, then you could sit there and say, hey, we'll let him go. We'll try and get what we can for him. But if he stays healthy and he continues to produce, keep him around. He's proven it before that he can do it when it matters. So I say keep him around and let him try and do it one more time.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think any of us anticipated the Red Sox getting off to such a good start here. I think going into the season, we were all expecting the Red Sox to kind of pick up where they left off last year and sort of, hang around as, the number 3 in the division. But they have gotten off to a really good start here, and now it has us thinking, well, if this continues and they do make the playoffs, then what do you do with Jacoby Ellsbury? And I think all of us across the board agree that this is the way to go, to just keep him. And if he's going to walk, just let him walk because he is too valuable to lose in the postseason. You've seen what he can do in terms of getting on base, being a base-stealing threat, his defense, his offense. He's the total package. So,
yeah, I mean,
that's something that – go ahead, Jake.
Let me hop in here. I mean, I would say this. You got blessed by the Magic Johnson, L.A. Dodgers or the Dodgers to take Carl Crawford because when you knew you had Carl Crawford for that big deal, that was the major reason why you were like, there's no way that we can have 2 of the top – because Ellsbury's going to get top money. There's no question about it. His MVP-type season was one of the best seasons in Major League Baseball history when you look at the stolen bases and the home runs that he had and all the other things that he does. He is one of the most athletic players in baseball, but like Mike said, health is a huge issue with him. I mean, he was out almost the whole season.
2 freak injuries. 2 freak injuries. He got ran into once, and then he got toppled. His shoulder got hit when someone else was when he was running the bases, and someone landed on him.
Ryan, it's not about how the injuries happened.
Yeah, they
it's
are.
About the
not injury prone though. Injury prone means the way you play.
Right. No, just to jump in here, just in defense of Brian, I think what Brian is saying is that there's a difference between a JD Drew type injury and
it's not.
One's a freak injury and one is I pulled my hammy.
Yeah, but how long did it take him to come back? I'm not talking about how they happened. I'm talking about how long it took him to come back. Period. It has nothing
Maybe
to do
it's a
with
bad
how it happens. Yeah, I mean,
immune system.
yeah,
I don't know.
right. So that's a question mark. It's not about how the injuries happen. It's about how fast he comes back, and that's one of the things I guess you worry about with Ellsbury. But I don't think that they have any chance. If they're in the playoffs this year and he's a free agent, I mean, there's no way that they can let him walk. I'm pretty sure they still have him for next season as well. Or is this no? This is the contract year for him. I mean, so and what's great about that is he's going to play up to that. This is his chance to get his money, and he's going to have a great year, one way or the other. You know it.
No, that's an excellent point. You know, the fact that he isn't a contract year means that he does not want to get hurt. He wants to put it all on the line right now and say, you know what, pay me. You know, because he's going to show what he can do, and he's going to try his best to have a 2011 type season. I do want to move on now, guys, to some hockey talk, and the Bruins will be facing the Toronto Maple Leafs in the first round. Brian, we'll start with you. Let's preview this series. How do you feel?
Well, since the Maple Leafs aren't that good, but the Bruins are playing awful these last 3 weeks. It was awful to watch them. They blew third period leads. They couldn't score on the power play. They couldn't defend the power play. One of their last games, they allowed 3 power play goals. That was just ridiculous. And I don't have any confidence in this Bruins team. But I still say they beat Maple Leafs in 6 games. Bam.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good matchup for the Bruins going against the Leafs. They've played really well against them. Kessel's still always a threat, and he's still a top player. He plays really well with Riemsdyk on their top line, and I think that the scoring issue is still what it always comes down to with the Bruins, and especially when you play the Claude Julien system where you're rolling 4 lines, you're playing very, very conservative, and you're really only releasing one forward into the offensive zone. You got to score goals, and the Bruins have been getting the opportunities. They just haven't been able to put them away. And, you know, part of that, I think a lot of people would agree, is that, you know, Milan Lucic is a huge part of that. And if he's not moving up and down the ice, you know, taking up one of those top forward line positions, and he's not into the game, he ends up being a major negative. And you know, if he's not playing physical and he's not scoring goals, then he shouldn't be on the ice, in my opinion.
He's starting to look more physical recently, but other than that, like he's skated better over the last week. He scored a goal over the last week. He's starting to look like a little bit like the Lucic we all know and love.
Hopefully, and one thing that this series will bring back is bringing back a guy that the Bruins traded for 2 picks that ended up becoming Dougie Hamilton and Tyler Seguin and Phil Kessel. I know some of you guys treat this, I know Brian does, as one of the best trades in recent memory, bringing in 2 studs like these 2.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Phil Kessel is still pretty good, but I would rather have Tyler Seguin, a great goal scorer and a great defender, and Dougie Hamilton, and have both of those for 1, basically. And Kessel has not played well against the Bruins anyway, so I think he only has 1 goal against them, like, since he left Boston. So
he's definitely struggled against the Bruins, and I also remember the Bruins, the fans chanting "Thank you, Kessel" every time he comes into the TD Garden, which is kind of a funny gag, because, you know, it was a phenomenal trade. Before we even drafted Dougie Hamilton, you got to look at the Seguin for Kessel almost as, but here's the scary thing with Seguin and Kessel is Seguin, almost reminds you of Kessel in that same spot where when Kessel came in, everyone thought, you know, he was the next really big goal scorer. He has that quick wrist shot. He's a great skater. Seguin really has to take that next big step. I mean, I think that up and down the ice, Seguin may be a little bit faster and maybe a little bit more creative, but man, he's right there, and it's always a good matchup. I think that the Bruins will win this series. I do think that they'll probably end up taking it 7, just the way that they're playing. Huge, and another big factor is obviously Tuukka Rask, and I think he's really stepped up over the last couple games. Although the team hasn't really played that well, he's played well individually, and he's gonna make all the difference in the playoffs.
Yeah, totally. I think the goalies is a big factor in the playoffs. Remember what Tim Thomas did, standing on his head, basically saving every shot that was thrown at him. So if Tuukka Rask and Hudobin can do that together, it'd be a very nice postseason for the Bruins.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. I think Pittsburgh is really their only major competition in the East. I think that they can match up well against anybody but Pittsburgh. So let's see. Let's hope that Tuukka can play big and, we get another chance at a run of the cup.
Well, with the Celtics on their way out, hopefully we can pin our hopes on the Bruins.
Well,
But,
don't say that
guys,
to Mike. Don't say that to Mike.
Hey now.
That's my dude. That's my dude.
Let's move on to our last topic on this show. Let's talk some NFL draft. The Patriots, of course, I don't think any of us were surprised. They had the 29th pick in the first round. Bill Belichick traded down. I think all of us called that. We knew that was going to happen, but they did end up actually making some draft picks in this one. They acquired, I think, 3 other picks from the Vikings after giving up their 29th overall pick.
They got 4 picks.
Four more picks. Okay, there you go. And they drafted a handful of guys. A couple of wide receivers I wanted to talk about. I'm blanking on the other one, but Aaron Hobson is a Marshall wide receiver that they got. He's a big. I watched some of his highlights.
Do you see that one
and he
handed
had
catch? That was
a
phenomenal.
one-handed catch in the back on a fade route in the end zone. I think this is a guy. Now again, the Patriots have not had a proper deep threat since losing Randy Moss. Is this a guy that they can sort of look at as a guy that can stretch the field outside the numbers?
Well, as the NFL draft goes, you never know what these players can do until you put them in an NFL game. Like, it could be a while before this guy is any good, or it could be good one year and then not be good the rest of the years. You don't know what any of these college players can do because they're playing against, like, no-name U.S. conference, like, teams. Like, it's basically like drafting out of a bucket. Like, you don't know what you're going to get.
I think you gotta like his size. He's 6'3".
Small hands, though. He has small hands.
It's always nice to bring in another receiver, another threat for Brady to kind of groom. Another person I'd like to talk about, I guess, too, is Jamie Collins. He's a really good player out of Southern Miss. Can play that hybrid DN / rush the passer type of outside player, which I think will be great to push Ninkovich, to push Jermaine Cunningham, to hope that we can have more depth at that position, because those positions on defense as well, I think on defense you need those interchangeable positions that where players rotate a little bit more on defense, and having another guy off the edge that can rush the passer is always a plus.
Well, look, let me just preface everything I'm going to say as by I can't stand the New England Patriots. I'm a Giants fan. I'll try not to rub that in too much, but
Oh no.
Go ahead.
Looking at the draft and looking at the way they did it, I'm actually shocked they didn't keep their first round draft pick, because Cordarrelle Patterson, the guy the Vikings got in that slot, he's an explosive, exciting player out of Tennessee. I mean, this Patriots team, while I get that they're in the win now mode, they also have to think about, trying to also move towards, past this Brady Belichick era into the future and start stockpiling young offensive talent moving forward. And I don't get that why they're going to want to try and continue to bring in these random deep threats when you look at the Patriots, when they had their best success in 2001, 2002, and 2004, they didn't have anybody that was a legitimate top-end deep threat on that team. They were more or less the dink and dunk system where their short passing game was an extension of their running game. It, hid Brady's weaknesses. He's not exactly a great deep ball passer. When he had Randy Moss, anybody that could throw the deep ball to Randy Moss is going to look a lot better.
Right, exactly.
But Tom Brady is a dink and dunk system quarterback where you let him do his thing and throw the short to intermediate passes. That's why I don't understand why they got rid of Welker. He was the perfect complementary receiver to have with Tom Brady. I just don't get why they would do this, because ever since they've tried to make it a Brady-centric offense where they want to turn him into the next Peyton Manning, they haven't had as much team success, and I don't think that's a coincidence. I think they have to get back to building a top 10 defense, playing that basic, simple system where they just dink and dunk you to death and do long drives down the field, and that's where the Patriots have their best shot of salvaging these last few years of Brady and Belichick.
Okay, Mike, first of all, yes, you're right. Brady and Belichick have made a name for themselves offensively by dinking and dunking, but to say that Tom Brady is not an accurate deep passer, man. Come on. I know Eli Manning has probably, made a name for himself over the last couple of years of being one of the most surgical pocket passers in the league, but to say that about Tom Brady, man, come on. You're talking to three Patriots fans over here. That's
Well,
not
I wanted the Honey Badger. That's all I gotta say. I wanted them to draft the Honey Badger.
Well, you just look what the highest profile receiver that they had on their Super Bowl championship teams was Deion Branch. They didn't need anybody that was a long, deep down the field burner. I mean, I get it. You had Randy Moss in his prime. You get a chance to get him for a 4th-round pick from Oakland, which was a steal. You take him. But at the same time, they didn't win with that kind of system. They didn't win with that, Tom Brady throwing for 5,000 yards, 40-plus touchdowns. That's not what they won with. They won with accuracy, good all-around team play. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but they had a top 6 defense every single year they won a Super Bowl. I think it was 6th, 2nd, and 1st overall defense, and they didn't worry about that throwing the ball all over the field. They didn't need to be an explosive offense. Well, now that they've kind of gone the other way, their team success has suffered. They haven't won a Super Bowl since then. They came close and got beat twice by somebody.
Okay,
but they haven't had the team success.
2 lucky catches.
Yes, 2 very lucky catches. But going back to the offensive side of things, Mike, actually for everyone, Rob Gronkowski, we were talking about this in the pre-show. We don't know if he's going to be ready by training camp. Aaron Hernandez also had a surgery. Amendola, we're still not sure how he's going to fit in. Aaron Dobson. So Bill Belichick is kind of making strides here, filling out the rest of the offense. They have the running back trio of Ridley, and they just got LeGarrette Blount, actually. I don't know how that's going to work out, but they had Ridley, Bolden,
Oh, that's
and
going to be
Green.
good. I like it.
So it'll be interesting to see how that works. But, I do think that they are trying to even out this offense. Obviously, Brian, you said you wanted the Honey Badger. I wouldn't have minded drafting Tyrann Mathieu, honestly. I think that you see a lot of these guys that have problems off the field, like, Randy Moss, Aqib Talib. They come in, and they're great citizens in New England until they act up again, and then they're out of here. So it'll certainly be interesting to see going into this season how the Patriots' offense shapes up, and the defense for that matter. But one thing that I do want to move on as our last topic, guys, is I don't know why if any of us, should be surprised by this news. After the Jets drafted Geno Smith, we all knew that either Sanchez or Tebow were on their way out. And with Sanchez's monster contract,
they have 6 quarterbacks.
They have 6 quarterbacks under contract, and with Sanchez getting $17 million guaranteed per year or something crazy like that, they cut Tim Tebow. And is anyone surprised by this?
No.
Yeah.
No, not one bit. I mean, look, the guy was a great college quarterback. They had that spread option in Florida. I think, when he was, freshman, they had that 2-quarterback system with him and Chris Leak. It worked.
Oh, yeah, right.
In college, that kind of system works because you're not playing against mammoth defenses and guys that are bigger and faster than you, at the same height and weight. I mean, in college, you're not going to find defensive linemen that can catch you. Most of the time, it's gonna have to be a DB or possibly a linebacker. In the NFL, everybody's just as big and fast as Tim Tebow, including the defensive linemen. So that spread option garbage, it's just not going to work. Every now and then he'll pull a pass out of his rear end, like you saw against Pittsburgh in the playoff game. But I don't care how much Skip Bayless from ESPN slobbers over this guy. He is an absolutely awful NFL quarterback. He's going to have to accept the fact he's a gimmick. He's a gimmick.
It's a good way of putting it. He's an absolute, and I think that's why he didn't play with the Jets. Is that where you win the starting roles and positions, and it's not in the press room, it's not from the PR people, it's not from the ownership, it's at practice. And you got to imagine that Tim Tebow was absolutely butchering practice, butchering throws, and he lost his job to almost to a 7th-round pick. McElroy, he couldn't even get into the game. So
he started 2 games at wide receiver and running back, or not running back, some other position.
Brian, he can hang his hat on his NFL career on those 2 games that he started on then, because honestly, the one thing I do like to I want to have everyone remember is that Josh McDaniels was the one who drafted him in the first round.
25th overall or something.
Just blew. I mean, you got to, you got to imagine that
Whoa,
that's something
he led
he's
them
not going
to
to
a
live down.
playoff berth. Whoa, he led them to
Yeah,
a playoff berth.
well, I mean, you want to hang your hat on that as your career, that's fine. But I think a lot of teams are expecting more than one playoff berth.
Yeah,
Well,
no.
let's not
Here's
forget.
what. Go
Well, I'm
ahead, Mike.
saying-
Go ahead.
Let's not forget, the only reason the Jets did that and went and brought in Tim Tebow was because they wanted to try and steal the offseason publicity away from the Giants. Because, and I'm not rubbing it in your faces,
No,
but the Giants did come off of a Super Bowl win, their
Right.
second one in 5 years, and the Jets were, they were the back page stealers when Rex Ryan got there, talking about, oh, we're going to win the Super Bowl. We're not here to kiss Bill Belichick's rings. They made 2 straight AFC championship games, and they were supposed to be taking that next step. That's why they brought in Tim Tebow, was strictly for publicity to try and take it away from the Giants, and that was it. I couldn't possibly fathom that as a legitimate football move because, quite frankly, I honestly didn't know who was a better quarterback out of Tim Tebow and Mark Sanchez. That's how awful Tim Tebow was, and that's pretty sad.
yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
absolutely
no.
true.
Here's the thing about Tim Tebow. Look, guys. I mean, he's a great guy. He's a fantastic athlete. But I'm just so glad that we can finally put to rest all the Tebow mania. Because I'm just tired of ESPN constantly talking about Tim Tebow. I think that if you can use him as a tight end or some sort of an H-back, that he can find success in the league, just not as a quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see what is in store for him, but I don't think that any of the 32 teams in football will be interested in bringing in Tim Tebow as
All
an
I have
NFL
to say,
quarterback.
Look up the Skip Bayless auto-tune of Tim Tebow. It's hilarious.
Hey guys, it's not just Skip. It's not just Skip Bayless. I know Skip Bayless makes a lot of outrageous claims, but it's ESPN. They absolutely love Tim Tebow. I don't know why it is, but I mean, how many professional athletes do you know they will celebrate his birthday on SportsCenter? How many guys do they do that for? Well, they did it for Tim Tebow.
Michael
I'm tired
Jordan?
of the
Yeah, Michael Jordan.
LeBron James.
That's a good point. No, Michael Jordan. I don't know about LeBron, but they did. But that was because it was his 50th. But
They
we'll see.
always do LeBron. They always do LeBron. It's LeBron James 24/7.
Well, it's no longer Tim Tebow 24/7 during football season, so I'm just glad that's the case. But anyways, guys, that is pretty much going to do it for us here on this edition of Monday Night Throwdown. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for joining us. And Mike, thanks for the guest appearance. Really enjoyed this one, guys. I'm Ashish Sharma with Brian Roach, Jake Banter, and Mike Munger. We'll see y'all next week. Take it easy, guys.